I've talked a lot about my childhood gender dysphoria, but I haven't really talked much about going through the process of resolving my gender dysphoria or detransitioning or accepting myself as a female or whatever you want to call it. And the process was actually pretty painful and difficult. I developed gender dysphoria initially because I believed that being a girl meant being sexual, that being a girl meant being sexualized, that being a girl meant being sexually abused. And so when my gender dysphoria resolved, it didn't resolve into me being a healthy, happy, functional girl. It resolved into those ideas that originally caused me to become gender dysphoric in the first place. Around 6th grade, I started to realize that if I was willing to have sex with a male, I could be accepted, not necessarily as a male, but by the male. It was a way for me to kind of gain access to men in a way that I couldn't when I was gender dysphoric. As my body started to change from being kind of androgynous child body to being more female body, I started to attract sexual attention from males in a way that I never did when I presented as a boy. And so it sort of was like this flip, very sudden almost. I think it was very sudden, from being Aaron, who was a boy, to Aaron, who was a sexual female. And one of my concerns about our gender roles and about the way sexuality is being promoted in our society and the sexual revolution and reproductive rights and all that is that I think that it's very easy for girls to get the idea that their sexuality is what defines them as a female. And that's not true. We need to start allowing girls and women to define themselves in ways other than their sexuality. Otherwise, I think we're going to keep having a lot of rapid onset gender dysphoria of girls as they go through adolescence. Or, as in my case, girls who become extremely sexualized because they believe that that's what it means to be a woman. And I think back on it, and it's very heartbreaking to me that my ideas of gender were so strict that I thought that in order to be female, it meant sexual. And the only way that I could figure out to get attention from males was to be sexual. And really the only way that I felt accepted was to be sexual. And that's really unhealthy for a 6th grade girl. And it really continued my belief about what it meant to be a woman really didn't change until relatively recently, which is profoundly sad that I spent so much of my life believing that being a woman meant being sexualized. Being a woman meant promoting my sexuality. Being a woman meant acquiescing to men's desires to have me sexually. That being a woman meant pleasing a man sexually. And I really didn't have a lot of good role models for what it meant to be a woman who wasn't sexualized. I hear so many stories of girls like me who developed gender dysphoria as a result of a sexual assault or to avoid sexual attention. And this is part of the sexual revolution that has not turned out well for girls. We got rid of the societal protections and norms that help women not to be sexualized. And then we gave women birth control pills and access to abortion so that they could control their reproduction without teaching them how to take care of themselves and define themselves as something other than a sexual being. And now the transgender movement is like accepting and promoting this because transgender women are oftentimes really promoting the sexual stereotypes that end up causing women to feel sexualized and objectified. So, gender dysphoria, which is the result of a girl who's feeling like she is unsafe or vulnerable because she's a sexual object, is caused by a society that has not figured out a way to teach girls and women how to protect their sexuality, how to guard themselves, and how to respect themselves as something other than a sexual being. We either need to go back and start reinstituting some of those societal protections for girls and women, or we need to teach girls and women how to set boundaries and how to protect themselves. And we can do this, but we can't do it if we have biological men saying that they are women and deserve to be in spaces where girls and women are vulnerable, because that undermines our ability to set boundaries, which is what we have to do if we're going to envision ourselves as something other than sex objects. And so this is sort of all interrelated and kind of confusing. But if we have males who identify as females defining what it means to be a woman and saying that to be a woman means to be sexualized and to be open to polyamorous relationships and to be sexually stereotyped. And then we have society telling girls and women that they're not even able to set boundaries within their locker rooms and showers and places where they're most vulnerable. Then really what we're telling girls is that they're unable to make firm boundaries, that their boundaries will not be respected, that there is no societal, there are no societal norms to protect them from being sexualized. And in fact, we're going to promote the sexualization of girls and women by allowing biological males in spaces where they're vulnerable.